What was your job on the team?
I did the procedural generation and the foliage and grass systems. Well, I finished the foliage and grass systems. I did some assets, some modeling, some sound, some I don't know, other things. I just did stuff.
I was kind of like a generalist. I did a lot of UI. I did some programming. I did like a lot of like the designing. I did write the framework for the node system that Harper used, and I wrote pretty much the entire weapon system. I used a lot of like inheritance and class-based stuff for that. All the UI was designed by me. I did, it, I mostly made it in Inkscape and ported it over to Unity later on. I made a lot of the sound as well.
My job on the team was primarily creating an entity system while placing the spawners, scripting behavior with the node system, modeling the enemies, modeling their behavior, and creating like flocking systems and whatnot.
My job was concept art and primarily doing character portraits.
I did the majority of the work on the player controller, and I also did a lot of the VFX works.
So I came up with the entire story. Basically, that was kind of it. I also did a little bit of some like character design, some ideas, and I did a little bit of like guiding art, and that was pretty much it. Okay, what was the hardest part about making your part of the game?
Using the new node system was difficult because there was a lot of getting used to the node system that was confusing and required a lot of like innovation to figure out.
I found balancing this project with other projects I'm involved in challenging. I would have liked to have done more work on this game.
Yeah, texturing. It's hard to make textures that I was happy with, and I'm still not happy with them because they suck. Blender's 2D art's really hard when it's not something that you do.
Probably learning a bunch of new systems. This year I spent a lot of time working on the new VFX graph, which I thought made some pretty cool shaders, and that was a lot of fun. And also just the amount of times I had to reiterate through the player controller, because it's just a very integral part of the game, and I really wanted to make sure I got it right.
Just about everything. Everything was the hardest part about making this game, because it's so much stuff just to get done. Like, not only is it already like, it's not that it's difficult work, it's just that the volume of work is massive. There's just so much work that has to be done, and sometimes you just don't have the time for that.
Well, definitely the hardest part was creating the characters and especially writing the dialogue. For the most part, we freehanded the dialogue. I have a hard time coming up with realistic sounding conversations. I find that the best conversations just come out of having two people in character talking to each other. And then you just do that a bunch and use the best. What's your favorite part about the game?
I think that the novelty of having sort of a procedurally generated world every time you load in is really cool. It's something that's really difficult to do, and I'm kind of proud about how far we got in the amount of time that we had.
I like the mountains.
Stepping outside my comfort zone, because usually I don't draw robots, I don't do like landscape art, so that was a nice kind of step outside the box for me.
I feel like the vehicles in the game are really fun to control and play around with.
I'd say that the UI is my favorite part. It looks really good. I'm really happy with how it turned out, and I guess the other part that I'm really happy with is like the sound. Sound is really nice.
I really like the characters. I think the characters have a lot of personality and they're all very distinct. And I'm saying that because I'm complimenting myself because they're my characters. What is something you would like to improve if you had the time?
Well, like I said, just more art generally, and I think I'd have liked to design more animals for the game.
I think having a more diverse environment would be interesting, but I don't think it's perfectly necessary for a minimum viable product of our game.
More structures that make more sense and are better like integrated. Also, I'd limit the world generation size and run more post processes on it, and then work on making the placement of the structures more natural.
I change up the weapon system. It's really bad. I'm not very happy with how the animations mesh with the code, but it is what it is. There's only so much you can do in the time that you have.
I think just the amount of content is really is what's really holding us back. A lot of the asset work, both 3D and 2D, and texturing was particularly hard. But if I had more time, I would probably focus on more gameplay and less on the fine tuning in the beginning.
I'd like to add more characters and flesh out the story more. And I'd also definitely like to add more story-related dialogue. I'd like to make actually learning the plot of the game take a little bit longer, and encourage you to explore the buildings more, to find more tapes, to find more story. Because right now I feel like we just kind of put the buildings there and there's not a lot of incentive to really go in them aside from advancing the objective.